What's up, everybody? I'm sitting in this chair because the NBA trade deadline is officially over. Now, some reports kind of will come through the winds in a way. You'll see some extra deals probably made before the end of the day, but nothing involving Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Blake Griffin, Carmelo Anthony. A lot of hype. Let's go back to Sunday really quick because I don't know if people have forgotten, but DeMarcus Cousins got traded to the Pelicans. So I don't know where all this, it was a really boring trade deadline, is coming from. A two-time All-NBA second-team player was traded to the Pelicans, and we're probably going to see them play tonight or tomorrow. I forget when the Pelicans are up. I know the Kings play tonight if there's still an organization in Sacramento or anybody to fill the seats. All right, well, here are the reports. Paul George to remain with Pacers. We have a lot more on that later. Thunder to acquire Doug McDermott and Taj Gibson. Two teams are nearing a deal that will send Payne to Chicago and both McDermott and Gibson to OKC. That was reported by Sharania of The Vertical. The Bulls will receive Anthony Morrow and Laverne in addition, while the Thunder will receive a 2018 second-round pick. What the fuck are the Bulls doing? I think they've pretty much given up a total of 5 picks to get and then trade Doug McDermott. Confused. More on the monster deal. I got to get back to the Denver Nuggets. You're going to bear with me, by the way. I'm not cutting any of this. We're going to put this right up as is. Sixers to trade Nerlens Noel to the Mavericks. According to ESPN's Zach Lowe and the Dallas Morning News team, which reminds me of the KVWN Channel 4 news team. Anytime you see news team next to it, I think of Anchorman. If the Sixers don't receive the Mavs first-round pick this year, they'll instead receive a 2017 and 2018 second-round pick from Dallas, since that first-rounder is top 18 protected. It seems very unlikely to change hands. So pretty much Nerlens Noel was traded for a bag of chips, just like DeMarcus Cousins was. Just like that. 2 second-round picks. But Jason, at least the Sixers got something. True, but you could have gotten more. Raptors to acquire P.J. Tucker. I think Jared Sullinger's on his way out the door, and Tyler Ennis traded to the Lakers. Houston will receive Marcelo Huertas, but the Rockets will waive Huertas after acquiring him. So I claim that Marcelo Huertas is the worst player in the NBA, and in about a week, he won't be playing in the NBA. Point me. All right, back to Paul George, because, look, a lot of people are like, what's the big takeaway from the trade deadline? If you're a Pacers fan and you believe the report, now, I want to hear the words hell-bent on going to Los Angeles come from Paul George himself. Sam Amick, no disrespect, I think he's a terrific reporter, but he did say, and he's from the USA Today, said today that Paul George is, quote, hell-bent, end quote, on going to Los Angeles if the Pacers can't compete next year. They can't compete next year unless they sign a Blake Griffin, which wouldn't be even enough to compete, or they were to sign Chris Paul or Steph Curry. That's a different story, but still extremely unlikely in free agency, alongside picking up a lot of different players. They're not going to be able to compete with the Boston Celtics, the Toronto Raptors, or, of course, the most important out of all of those, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's also not forget that the Philadelphia 76ers, minus that dumbass trade for Nerlens Noel, I still think are going to get better next year with a couple of signings. So the East is only going to get stronger. So what I take away from that, if I'm going to be in the camp that believes it, is that Paul George doesn't want to play for your team. So if you're a Pacers fan, you should be revolting against him if you believe this report. It is such a ridiculous statement to say at any point that you don't want to play for your team and you're going to go to Los Angeles a year away from when you can go to Los Angeles unless the Pacers actually dealt him. Now, they turned down a, quote, monster deal from Denver. I don't care what the deal was. The only way monster and deal become synonymous or associated with each other is if Nikola Jokic is included. I get it. They could have offered Gallinari and Moutier and a couple of picks. Monster, not enough that it would be getting the Pacers what they wanted, or a deal would have been struck, obviously. Now, the Celtics, so Paul George wants to compete. He said because he won't compete with the Pacers next year. He's already pretty much said that, according to Amick. And he won't go and compete with the Nuggets, where he could have gotten a unicorn of a center to play with for the next couple of years. But what about the Celtics? Now, it doesn't seem like the Celtics really wanted to part way with those picks. And the Celtics are still in a phenomenal position. If I'm Danny Ainge, I'm trading that pick, and I'm trading one of Marcus Smart or Avery Bradley, and I'm also trading, I think you have to give Tyler Zell or whatever it might be to even out the money to make it right. And I'm getting Paul George. I say that because while Markelle Fultz or Josh Jackson or whatever that potential number 1, number 2 overall pick from the Nets falls in this draft, I'll always take the guaranteed superstar over the player who can become a superstar. And Paul George is a top 20 player in the league, and I'm going to take that. You don't know if Markelle Fultz or Josh Jackson become anything close to what Paul George is, and Paul George was never the prospect that was from Fresno State who was going to be the next superstar, granted number 10 overall pick. And the papers that day from Indiana were mad that they took Paul George over Gordon Hayward anyway, or it was at least something like that. They were like, couldn't get point guard, so we settle for George. Turned out all right out of Fresno State. No one even followed him at Fresno State. Now, that all plays in the idea that Paul George wants to play for the Lakers. Lakers fans, rejoice. You have a player that wants to play for you. You have a player who's hell-bent on coming to Los Angeles. Then why couldn't you get him now? He's hell-bent on coming to L.A. Why couldn't you get him now? Someone please answer me this question. Was the deal not right? Did they not want to part with Brandon Ingram again, which is moronic? You should have parted with Brandon Ingram for DeMarcus Cousins. You should have parted with Brandon Ingram for Paul George. Again, take the guaranteed guy, not the person who could become the guaranteed guy down the stretch. Real deal in front of you, prospect not. Take the guaranteed star. All right. In terms of Paul, so that's everything for Paul George. I really want to know what this monster deal was exactly, besides the fact that George is a $200 million player when his contract is up, just like most of the guys who are in the top 15, top 10, 20 status of the NBA. They're all getting $200 million deals when their contracts are up. There's only so many $200 million deals that can go around. We talked about Nerlens Noel. That was an interesting one just because the Bulls, the Sixers, and the Kings constantly compete for who can do a worse job. And then, as I tweeted out earlier, Chris Bosh was sent from the Miami Heat to TNT to really round out a starting 5 of ex-players that possibly could win more games than the Nets, even in like their mid-40s. Shaq, KG, could they do it? You think KG could still play, Ja'Cory? He could definitely inspire.
He can inspire.
Yeah. He can make Ernie Johnson a competent point guard. Better than that of Marcelo Huertas. All right. Comment below, like, favorite, and subscribe. Tomorrow, Coach Nick from B-Ball Breakdown will be in studio. We'll go over way more of these deals in detail and how it affects the league and what's going to happen. Again, man, if you want to believe that Paul George is hell-bent on going to L.A., that is your right. You can believe the report. But if you're a Pacers fan, you should be furious with your team, your organization, and your player. Because no player should ever be deciding where they're hell-bent on going a year away when you are going to be competing in this year's playoffs. Focus on now, man, not 365 days from now. Like, favorite, subscribe. You can follow me at JCRubin91 on Twitter, on Instagram, on, I don't know, Snapchat. Trying. See you next time.